So can we really afford to have distance learning be a casualty of the pandemic?
Absolutely not. I mean, our partners that measure learning loss over the summer, so they call this the summer slide, already estimate that the closures of the spring risk significant learning loss. Um, we know that if distance learning can't go forward this fall, and we opt to either delay or close learning, we're going to have even more significant learning loss. We've got to find a way to continue teaching our nation's kids.
So, I looked at the report, which is amazing, and it really, really, sort of debunks a lot of the myths that people have. I mean, is this a problem that really only affects children of color?
No. Certainly, children of color are affected by the digital divide in greater numbers, but all kids of all colors are impacted by the digital learning, distance learning, digital divide. And what we're finding is that every community is impacted by this, and certainly, if you can imagine what a classroom is like when all of a sudden 5 of the students in the classroom can no longer participate, the richness of that environment is lost, right? That's the whole point of enjoying your classmates and hearing their opinions and having them participate. You learn from your fellow students. And when you have even 1 or 2 students that aren't able to participate, there's an impact on the learning for the students that are, well equipped to participate.
Yeah, this is a really important issue because I think when people think about this, they sort of say, oh, well, it's people who can't afford it, or it's people who live in rural areas. But your report clearly shows that this is a report that affects every community, rural, urban. It affects every, geographic group. It affects kids who, live in suburban schools. It really affects every child everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And with the greater economic downturn that's occurring, there are certainly families that might have been able to cobble together some kind of connectivity, might have had their own equipment to use, but if it breaks down or if they're not able to make ends meet because of layoffs or other disruptions in income, they might have to fall off and not be able to connect or can't replace the device that has broken down. So they're going to need support from their schools as well.
Now, is this a problem that impacts teachers also?
Yes, what we found in our report is that about 400,000 teachers are impacted by the distance learning digital divide. And that's a combination of connectivity and devices. And we've heard through our Connect All Students campaign, where we ask teachers to directly tell us their stories, that teachers are going to incredible lengths to be able to keep teaching. So they are driving to parking lots and uploading sensitive student data because their connectivity is just not secure enough at home. That's certainly not the way students or teachers should be operating, and that's not how student information should be uploaded from the front seat of a car. And teachers are struggling to be able to connect to their classrooms, which impacts every kid in their classroom. So when a teacher can't connect, you've got on average another 20 to 30 kids that are impacted per class.
So Amina, tell us, what will it take to fix this problem?
We think it takes a significant investment from the federal government and that flows to the states to be able to close this. And what I think the good news of our report is that it can be done. We know that there's technology in place that can be used to be able to connect these students. Certainly, there's a cost associated with it. We find about $6 to $11 billion to be able to connect students, with an additional $1 billion to be able to connect teachers. And that might seem like a high price to pay, but when you consider what you're saving learning loss from occurring, which is going to impact students for decades to come and the country for decades to come. It's absolutely worthwhile to make those investments.
And is it only a federal government solution? Is there something that public and private partnerships can do to work on this?
Certainly, public and private partnerships can be a part of the solution, but what we're finding is that since this is such a large and comprehensive issue, we need a large and comprehensive approach. And that's where the federal government can step in. This is what they're made for, to be able to provide states the funding to be able to tackle the problem that they have in their communities. And what we found is that, you know, there are providers that are willing to step up and offer discounts, but it can't go on indefinitely. And certainly our students in this country, their learning shouldn't be up to, you know, the whim of an ISP or whether or not you've got enough philanthropic investment in your area. This has to be a coordinated, comprehensive approach.
So you're saying this has to be top down and it has to come from the federal government?
Certainly it takes a combination of efforts. I mean, the state and local school officials are going to be the ones that know exactly what the need is. They know what systems they use, how they want to stand up their distance learning program. They know which students have access and which students might need access down the road. As we envision this to be an ongoing issue over the course of the next school year. And so, you know, they're going to be really critical to be able to provide the accurate assessment and where the need should go. But ultimately, the funds have to flow from the federal government because states are at an incredible budget crisis right now. And there's also an incredible budget crisis within the educational community. So we can't expect states and schools to be able to foot this bill on their own. And certainly a hodgepodge of philanthropic efforts or private pledges won't get the job done in a comprehensive way.
So are there any other things in the report that you'd like to share with us? I mean, it's a great report. It has amazing charts that demonstrate, like you said, even in the states that really have made progress on sort of closing the digital divide, it's still 1 in 4. But when you start to look at states like Mississippi, it's like they're not even in the same country. So is there anything else that you can leave people with to say, you know, this is a problem. It's a big problem. It's a real problem, but it is doable to fix it even for those kids in Mississippi who are way outside the curve of what average students get?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at about 16 million kids across the country that are going to be impacted by this digital divide. And we don't need to invent the vaccine to fix this problem, right? We have technology in place. It's just a matter of investing in it.